Okay. We will be moving to the next speaker meanwhile. It is Akash. Let me give you a brief introduction about Akash. Akash is a very close friend of mine. He's from India. Pakistan and India have been fighting for so many years. We decided to break this stigma and move towards friendship. And I requested him. He has been supporting me while I was writing articles. I started writing article every day, and then I stopped, and he asked me why you are stopping. I have been reading, and I said no. I want more people to read. That's why I'm stopping. And he is always supportive. I requested him that he will be speaking about his favorite book. It's difficult to get into the mind of other people, but if we are able to get a hint what other people are reading, what they are going through, what do they have in their bookshelf. That way, we might have some idea that what other people is doing. I requested Akash. He will be sharing his struggle. He will be sharing about Snapchat story. He has prepared a presentation. I will request him to share his screen share and start off with his presentation. Akash, you can share your screen, bro.
All right, Kasim.
Okay, great.
So I hope that you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see. We can see it fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So thanks, Kasim, for the wonderful introduction. And it's unfortunate that we missed Asoko's talk, but he has given a wonderful talk. I have seen the rehearsal that he had done. So I hope that we get a chance to see it after I'm done with my talk. So hello everyone. My name is Akash Joshi, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite book, which is How to Turn Down $1 Billion. This book was written by the author and TechCrunch journalist Billy Gallagher, who has followed Snapchat story from its infancy to now, where it's worth more than 17 billion US dollars. And in this book, the author describes the complete journey of Snapchat, the journey of its founders, and how they grew the company to such a large value. It also this book is also very personal to me because it has influenced a lot of decisions that I have made in my life, and also some opinions that I have about tech. So in the next few slides, I will be explaining to you about this book. But before we begin, let me talk a bit about myself. Let me introduce myself to you guys. Basically, I'm a founding engineer at a young startup. This decision was also in my decision of working at startups throughout my career has been influenced by this book. I also enjoy writing, and I mostly write about tech. I had my articles published in CSS Tricks, Auth0, and FreeCodeCamp. And I also like to work as an open source contributor. I like to join communities and help them build some of their projects. So if you look at my GitHub profile, you'll see the work that I do. And as Kasim had said, I am from India. I'm from Pune, which is a city in the western part of India, which you can see here. And working with Kasim has been a real pleasure because even though there is a divide between our countries politically and even throughout the history, we never talk about politics or anything else. We only talk about what's going in our lives and how we can make them better. So, yeah, why books? Why should one read books? Because due to the abundance of information and media in the present age, it's a very difficult task for someone to pick a 300 or 500 page book and read it end to end without uh, having any other articles to click on or any digital media like songs or a video playing. So for me, these are the two main reasons why I like to read books over reading an article online or watching a YouTube video. The first one is that it's an escape from marketing treadmills. This one is a bit obvious because when you try to search for a topic online, nowadays Google is the worst search engine that you can use because every article that will pop up is some search engine optimized article made by a marketer who is trying to sell you a course or trying to make you use their product. And in books, of course, there's no other place where the reader, not the reader, but the author wants to take you because he already has his product in your hand. And that's where you'll get the final information. The second one is a deep dive into a topic. So in internet articles, how the author thinks is to get my article indexed on Google, these are the minimum number of words that I need to write. After this, if I write anything, no reader is even going to look at it. So why do I put the effort in to write it? However, in books, the author has no such limitation. He can go into the depth of the topic and write down everything that he has in his mind. And so, if you see the quality of research papers and books versus the quality of internet articles, you'll realize how deep a person can go into a topic, and you can explore niches of a topic which you hadn't even thought of before. So, yeah, I've explained why I like to read books. Now, I will talk about my favorite book. So, my favorite book is How to Turn Down $1 Billion. This book is, as I had explained, on the story of Snapchat and mainly about its founders, and mainly one founder specifically, Evan Spiegel, and his struggles from being a student to growing a company to its IPO. So, in the next slide, I'm going to talk about the first act of the book, which talks about how the founders met and how they ideated and built the initial product. Uh, the all so prefacing that, the founders were a part of the prestigious institution Stanford, and because of the large variety of people who attend such a prestigious institution, these three founders who were from wildly different backgrounds, they could meet together and form a company. So that's the advantage of working in a or studying in a melting pot like Stanford. So now we'll be talking about the contestants of our story, or the founders. The first one is Reggie Brown. The book introduces him as a party goer who met our next contestant at a party and discussed the initial idea for the product which would eventually become Snapchat. The next contestant is whom the book is mainly focused on, who is Evan Spiegel. He was also a party goer like Reggie Brown, but he had a pre-existing entrepreneurial spirit. So he already had experience working with big brands, and he used to throw professional parties for brands like Red Bull from when he was just 16 years old. So he already had experience of putting in the hard work and building and doing the actual work. And our last contestant is a person who people like us who have uh, come from the bottom and worked hard to reach where we are right now, Bobby Murphy. So unlike the other two founders were rich kids from rich parents who used to live in literally live in $1 million mansions. That's information that you can confirm by looking it up online. Bobby Murphy was a more of a down to earth guy. He learned coding via playing video games, like the most of us, and he worked hard to get into Stanford. And so, yeah, since he was such a hardworking guy, he caught the eye of Evan Spiegel, and together they built the initial product of which eventually became Snapchat. So, unfortunately, at this point of the story, one of our contestants has to leave the game. Reggie Brown was kicked out by both of the other founders because he wasn't willing to take part of the hard work, the initial hard work, which goes into creating a product. He was only interested in going to parties, according to the book again. And so, because of that reason, the other two founders had to kick him out at an initial stage. So the next part of the story, which is the main part of the story, talks about growing the app, how they had their initial struggles, and how they eventually reached 250 million active users. So that's also a fact that you can confirm online. They currently have about 249 million active users, and I think 300 to 500 million active users monthly. So yeah, how they grew this app to this level. So the three main parts, which are very essential and very intrinsic to building any kind of product, is iteration, waiting or having discipline, and communicating. So I'll go into the depths of these 3 points. Firstly, iterating means is not settling on a single version of the app. constantly iterating on the app, trying to make it better, and always trying to achieve higher, and not feeling that the version that you have right now is the final version. The second point is waiting. Waiting is important because you must realize that this app had very little had a small number of users, had nearly no intrinsic value, and even the founder's value was zero for a period of about 2 years. For 2 years, no one was willing to take this app seriously, thinking that it was an app which was just used by teenagers, which was only used by people in a relationship, sending pictures to each other, things like that. So no one was willing to take them seriously for 2 years. And communication. So communication, particularly communication with your users. So uh, because they were extremely communicative with your users. In fact, there are stories where the founders went to shopping malls and public places and made people install their app, try face filter and features like that, which we right now use regularly, but were just introduced back then. And iterating on that user feedback and trying to make the app better. So these three are the key features which, according to the book, resulted in the growth of the app. So while the book talks about how you can grow an app and how Snapchat reached the level that it currently has, it also talks about an app which paid, which at the same time was in Stanford, was created by a student who was at Stanford. So I'll give a brief description of why this app failed, and again how it is portrayed in the book. So the 3 points here are: raised it raised too much too early, it had a founder with a god complex, and it had no user feedback at all. So firstly, it raised too much too early. So about this, the founder was a student back then, and through one of his classes, he had a chance to talk with the big entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who has invested in companies like Facebook. And through him and his contacts, he was able to raise up to $25 million while he was still in college. And the product was just an idea, and there was uh, nothing physical, or I mean, there was no product there. So raising so much money at an early age and at such an early stage of the startup without proving its worth or proving that there's a market, and that resulted in that must have been the contributing factor in the startup eventually failing. The second is the founder with a god complex. Uh, this is more at a personal level, and we can't make judgments of other people. However, the founder had the founder was a solo founder basically, and anyone who he worked with or had to work with was someone he had hired. So of course, when you're hiring someone, that's a different relationship than when you're founding a company with them. Because when you're founding it with them, you consider them partners, but when you're hiring them, you think about how well they will do and when you should let them go or find someone better. So that of course leads to some sort of a god complex in people who are not able to handle it. And the third one is no user feedback at all. So because of the previous reason, the founder felt that whatever he thought was the best thing for the users, and so he never went to the users with the app. He never. So when the app launched, it failed within 4 months without gaining any traction at all. So yeah, I didn't describe what Klinkle was, but basically Klinkle was a fintech startup which was used to send money to other people like PayPal or Square Payments, which is active in the US right now. And basically, this had more of a physical motion where you would swipe on your iPhone. So that was their only key feature to send money to others. So yeah, since by the time they had a final product, already there were a lot of competitors in the market. People didn't use this app. And yeah, before we move to the final act of the book, here's a memorable quote from the book itself. It's that it's no surprise that companies that quickly grow in value also attract those who may want to profit from the hard work of others. So basically, what this means is that companies that quickly grow in value, so basically startups or companies like Snapchat in this example, also attract those who may want to profit from the hard work of others. So they attract those kind of people who want to profit from the hard work of the original founders without putting in the actual effort. So luckily, the founders were able to identify such an employee at an early stage, and later on also the actually you should read the book for this. They also encountered other people like venture capitalists who would want to profit from them, or other basically bad kind of people who want to profit from you, and how they dealt with them. So that's also a good part of the book. And lastly, these are my final thoughts on the book and the key lessons that you can take away from this book itself. So the first one is hard work beats ideation. So this is a point that I've been reiterating over for the past 10 minutes. That is, even though like the original person who had the idea was Reggie Brown, he wasn't willing to put in the hard work. So the other two founders, Evan Spiegel and was that guy, Evan Spiegel and Bobby Murphy, they could put in the hard work and eventually grow the app to such a level. Even right now their personal values are in the multi-billions, with Evan Spiegel having his personal net worth at 9 billion USD right now. So you understand that hard work actually beats ideation. The second is discipline beats time. So that was also a point that I had brought up earlier, that for 2 years no one took them seriously, but their discipline and hard work and belief in their idea could beat that time, and eventually they were able to raise a large amount of money in their series A, which led to further growth, and that's why they were able to reach the level that they are right now. And listening to users, so this is a very important important lesson that you can take away while even building your own apps, which is listening to users. Because without listening to your users, you are building your product in a vacuum. Your users are who use the app and who will actually make the app and drive the direction of your app, because you are building it for them, and whatever their feedback is, that will actually result in more users being driven towards your app. And the last one is dream work makes the teamwork. I said that wrong. Sorry, teamwork makes the dream work. So this is because we see this with the Klinkle versus Snapchat example, where Klinkle had only one CEO; he had to handle everything, and then the rest of the people were hired. So the only game he played was hiring and firing. Whether Whereas on the other hand, in a company with Snapchat, who had two founders, one of the founders was focused on the execution part of the role and the general operations of the company, where the other partner was only focused on building the product and getting user feedback. So this resulted in a driven sort of development where the product could be driven in a correct direction. So yeah, that's it about my talk. That was a brief description of the book, How to Turn $1 Billion. So thank you for taking the time out today to listen to me. And if you have any questions, you can email me at this email address, or check out my Twitter and other contact details at my website. And I'm also open to taking any questions right now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Akash. It was a well prepared presentation. You have taken a lot of time in preparing it. I know it while we were rehearsing. So I would request from audience, if they have any question, they can ask it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me personally, what's the most important lesson that you have learned from this book? Then I always apply in everyday life. So, what's the most important lesson? I guess one of the lessons would be to have the discipline, because or not trying to think of the profit that you gain from every single task. So this is because when the first point, having discipline, this is because you may be doing some things which you may feel don't have any instant value to you. I mean, again, I'm talking from a personal standpoint. So in everyday life, we may feel that why are we doing this? This will have no impact on us. But actually, the hard work that you put in into something eventually does have an impact, and it does, give us returns if it's put in the correct direction, of course. And not the second point, that not thinking about the profit in everything, that also ties in with the previous point. Yeah, I did. So yeah, Asher's question was that have I heard about QB, which was a streaming platform, and can I about it relating to this book? So yeah, I did read about this, but I won't go into the details because I myself don't know it. I haven't really researched what they were doing, but it seems that the market they were in was already pretty saturated, and they didn't wait it out. Basically, they just stayed for a little while, and then when it didn't work out, they didn't see the profit. So they weren't waiting to. They weren't capable of waiting it through. That was what I would say.
Hi, Akash.
Yeah. No?
Hi, hello. Can you listen me?
Yeah.
Akash, I have a question that how would you summarize your life in one sentence and why?
I think my life was mostly about having luck and doing the right things at the right time. So that would be the one sentence. And why? Because I got into open source when people in India were just figuring out about it. So I managed to get into good startups, and there I could drive the initial technology. So I chose technologies because of my open source contributions into. So basically, open source people generally try to use the latest technology because they themselves are trying to build something as a side project to show off to the world. And because I could contribute to such projects, I could learn technologies like React and Node.js and the newer frameworks in Python at a pretty early stage in life. And those, thanks, Ashir. So those technologies were what I used in the first company that I worked at, and that built my profile as a React developer or as a JS and Python developer, due to which I could be a founding engineer at the current startup that I am right now. So yeah, that is how I would describe my life.
So, Akash, thank you so much. These are the end of the questions we are going to take. It was
Yeah.
thank you so much for putting us wise on how Snapshot did and how they did this breakthrough. And there is a lot of learning, obviously.
Yeah.
So the fast, how would you summarize in one sentence? Looking at you, I would say that you are one disciplined person who are focusing on what you are committing to, and you have been. It is a discipline which I think separates us from other people. How much we are able to stay committed to the promises we have made.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Akash.